Hello and welcome to episode 116 of the How to Survive podcast. My name is Chris and joining me as ever is Joe.
Jigsaw. That's what they call me in nowhere.
Yeah.
Yet.
Yeah, well, after this podcast, maybe they will, because this week's film is, of course, the hot new horror release in cinemas.
Yeah.
We're here before the box office takings have come out, Joe, but I can only assume it's smashed all records.
Yeah.
Not just for horror films, but for cinema in general.
Yeah,
Avatar is crumbling in the wake of Jigsaw, the reinvention of the Saw franchise.
Yeah.
Joe is here to help me put the pieces together. If you haven't seen Jigsaw, it's in cinemas now. And of course, if you haven't seen the Saw films, then you can go to HowToSurviveShow.com and watch our Saw marathon video, which if you've not been listening to the podcast for the last couple of weeks, it's a exciting new development for How to Survive. It's our first video podcast. It's a fully fledged half-hour Saw marathon.
Yes.
We watched all of the Saw films back to back, and you should really go watch it because it's a fun bit of time to spend with us.
Did you enjoy it making that?
Yeah, it was great.
Yeah, it was,
as you can see in the video.
Yeah.
Our joy is writ large across our faces.
Yeah. So we were there 11 hours back to back. Well, the films were back to back 11 hours. When you factor in the prep and the post stuff, we were there for 15 hours.
Yeah, at least.
Yeah. Awful.
Dreadful.
Really. Doing it again soon though. Hopefully. Yeah.
Yeah.
Looking forward to that.
Great.
Maybe we can back to back some other series.
Yeah, maybe. Well, if you want us to do that, you better go watch the video because we're not going to do it if no one watches it. Jigsaw. Spoilers ahead because as ever, we like to recap the plot in its entirety.
Yeah, you won't want this one spoiled.
Yeah, before we talk about How to Survive. And it's in cinemas now. Of course, if you don't want to go to see it in the cinema, you could just listen to our plot recap.
Mm.
I mean, come on.
Yeah. I mean, if you've seen any of Saw 1 to 7, none of this will be a surprise to you.
Just basically they copy-pasted stuff and changed the names.
Yeah.
Almost.
Sometimes literally.
Yeah. Coming up, Jigsaw.
Now the game's simple. Best ones are. You want mercy? Play by the rules.
Any identification on the victim?
Puzzle piece. But Jigsaw has been dead for 10 years.
It's not him. Can't be.
This was on the body.
The truth will set you free.
Help!
Live or die. The choice is yours.
You know what happens if we don't follow the rules?
No, it's not creepy at all.
A criminal called Edgar Munson flees from police to the top of an industrial building and holds a remote trigger, demanding to speak to a detective Halloran. Upon Halloran's arrival, Munson explains that a game will begin when he pulls the trigger, and he needs to do so or they will all die. The police shoot Munson's hand just as he pulls the trigger, but one officer shoots him in the chest, leaving him comatose.
I bet he's behind it all.
Maybe. Meanwhile, apparently triggered by Munson, a game in the vein of John Kramer's Traps begins with 5 people chained around the neck in a barn. They are pulled towards spinning blades where they must give a blood sacrifice. 4 of the 5 succeed and they are released from the room, with the final contestant being apparently killed, having woken up too late, leaving Ryan, Carly, Anna and Mitch.
I bet he's behind it all.
Mitch.
Yeah.
In the following room, the chains threaten to hang them from the ceiling unless they inject the correct syringe of 3 into the correct member of their group who has been poisoned. As the chains pull them towards the ceiling, Ryan panics and stabs Carly with all three, releasing the group, but at the cost of Carly's life, because one of the syringes was filled with acid.
I bet she's behind it all.
In the next room, Ryan's leg is trapped by wires, which tighten to the point of causing him agony. In an adjacent silo, Anna and Mitch are nearly buried alive by grain until Ryan pulls a lever, which frees them at the cost of Ryan's leg. Mitch is subsequently killed by a brutal spiral blade machine, leaving Ryan and Anna, who are both then incapacitated by a man in a pig mask.
I bet he's behind it all.
Maybe. As the game progresses, the bodies of the victims show up around the city. Detectives Halloran and Hunt race to find the location of the game and find out who is responsible. Though the MO and evidence points towards John Kramer, the Jigsaw killer, he has been dead for nearly 10 years.
I bet he's behind it all.
The detectives enlist the help of forensic pathologists Logan and his assistant Eleanor, who is secretly a Jigsaw obsessive and has collected his traps and blueprints in a macabre warehouse. John Kramer's body is exhumed, but in his coffin they instead find the body of Edgar Munson. Halloran is suspicious of Eleanor and Logan, who in turn suspect Halloran of being the killer. The pathologists use their pathology skills to find the barn where the game is taking place and are followed by Halloran. A scuffle breaks out and Logan is knocked unconscious. Eleanor flees while Halloran is subdued by an unseen person. Ryan and Anna wake up in a chained room with a masked man who reveals himself to be none other than John Kramer, miraculously alive and well. He places a shotgun between them, saying their survival instinct is backwards and that the single shotgun shell inside the gun is the key to their survival. At the earliest opportunity, Anna grabs the gun and shoots it, but it backfires, killing her. Ryan picks through the debris and finds the remains of 2 keys for their chains. What a tremendously frustrating riddle. Ryan is left to die for Anna's mistake.
So just to be clear, their thinking was backwards and the shell was the key to their escape.
Yeah.
Therefore, the gun's going to backfire and the key is in the shotgun shell.
Yes. Halloran and Logan, remember them, wake up in the same room wearing devices with surgical cutting lasers around their necks. Each has to confess and can push a button to volunteer first. Halloran offers to go first, but pushes Logan's button instead, which activates his trap and kills him. As Halloran's trap activates and he confesses to letting numerous criminals walk free for personal gain, Logan stands up. It was a cruel ruse. Logan is the new Jigsaw. A bewildering montage ensues that reveals Logan, an ex-Marine who suffers from PTSD and lost his wife, was in fact the first victim of the barn game, which in fact was 10 years ago. But Logan survived. He was picked because he mixed up Jigsaw's x-rays, and Jigsaw didn't find out about his cancer until it was too late. So Jigsaw put him in the game, but he decided nobody should die for one mistake. Jigsaw decided to nurse Logan back to health. Jigsaw decided to make Logan his apprentice. Logan was Jigsaw's first apprentice. Logan has been waiting for this for a decade for some reason. He shot Munson in the chest with a sniper rifle. He swapped the bullets to make it look like Halloran. He recreated the barn traps from 10 years ago to get new bodies to leave around the city. He edited old Jigsaw to make him say new phrases. Maybe he even sold Eleanor the traps and stuff. Who knows? He speaks for the dead! Logan activates Halloran's trap and leaves. Halloran dies. The end. And that's Jigsaw.
Yeah. Every other Saw movie ends on game over.
Yeah.
Right? And it could be Jigsaw saying that.
Yeah.
It could
or
be
one of his apprentices.
Amanda.
His wife.
Yeah. Anyone saying game over and then he's slamming a door, right?
Yeah.
In this one, he gets to the door, the barn door, which is a sliding door.
Yeah.
Right?
Like, obviously evocative of the
and he's about to say game over and he says, I speak for the dead, and slams the door. You're like,
what?
Oh.
Yeah.
It's not as if the rest of the movie was trying to avoid like being too similar.
It's not as if the like all of the tape started with who will speak for the dead.
I speak for the dead.
Oh, that was Jigsaw.
Yeah, it was. Who was it though? Is it called Jigsaw because Jigsaw's in it? And
That was Jigsaw. Joe, what did you think of Jigsaw?
well, it was shit. And that's not a surprise.
Right.
We-
Where does it rank among the Saw canon?
Probably number one still. No, I think Saw 1's the best.
Yeah.
Then Saw 2. Then this.
Right.
And I think you'll probably...
So it's
Said
shit,
it.
but it's the third best of 8 films.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I agree.
Any problem with that?
No, I mean it's pretty bad, but it's still far from the worst Saw film, and I say that with more confidence than I have in anything else that I believe.
Yeah. Do you know when you look back on like music videos from the early noughties, like an Evanescence video,
Yeah.
and you'll be like, what the fuck is this? If you turn the sound off, you'd be
They've
like,
got a
what are they
look. They've
up
got a
to?
distinctive look.
Yeah. Or like I was watching a like Alien Ant Farm video the other day,
Right.
and it's just like it's absolute nonsense. It's like they're like skateboarding in a boxing ring in someone's garden. It's just like so bizarre.
Yeah.
If the Saw movies like Saw 4, 5, 6, 7
Yeah.
feel like that in terms of like what the fuck is this?
Yeah.
Like whose idea was this?
Yeah.
And this is better than that because
Yeah,
it seems like there's a bit of structure and a bit of thought has gone into it.
Yeah, and there's a bit of craft, I think, as well. Like it looks good. Like the cinematography is good
Yeah.
and capable.
They finally abandoned that, that dingy, washed out look
Yeah.
that became not just famous for being it became not just the crutch that Saw movies used as a way to set the scene, but all horror movies for 15 years
Yeah.
used the same thing.
Like we said in a previous podcast, that was what horror movies were until Paranormal Activity happened.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then it became still images that suddenly went bang.
Yeah. Another difference, I think, from the previous films in the franchise is that the acting was okay.
Yeah, it was all right.
The script was okay. And the fact that it's a reboot and has an entirely new cast of characters aside from a flashback of John Kramer, essentially.
Yeah, that was a bit... How do you feel about that?
Well, I mean, it's like every time they retcon something to give Jigsaw a new apprentice, for some reason, they always have to be the first apprentice that Jigsaw had. So it's like, oh yeah, but I know Hoffman was in it from the beginning,
Yeah.
but actually Lawrence Gordon was in it from even before that. And then it's like, oh, actually Logan was the first person
Yeah,
John Kramer
yeah.
ever had. Like, I don't know why they do that. Like, it's not compelling. It's just
It
frustrating.
also doesn't make sense.
No.
Because if like, say what would have been like somewhat more satisfying
Yeah.
is saying, actually, Kramer had people who, like several people who were all in on the same thing. They were a team of like a
Yeah.
cult,
Yeah.
like the Manson family. You've got Charles Manson, who's this enigmatic, charismatic leader who brainwashes people. This is a true story. He brainwashed people into killing on his behalf, right?
Right.
And the entire point of Jigsaw is that he doesn't kill people. He puts them in a situation where they are forced to either mutilate themselves or, die.
Yeah.
So,
But I mean, like, obviously that as the films go on,
yeah,
isn't the case.
less and less.
Yeah.
Yeah. But it would be somewhat more interesting. And you'd expect by now that someone in Hollywood would have gone, let's do something interesting with this, conceit.
Mhm.
To say there's a cult of people who are all brainwashed into the Jigsaw family or the Jigsaw fanatics
Yeah.
who all want to do this. And then it becomes a much scarier thing because it's like, how do you stop an ideology?
Yeah.
How do you stop this sort of thing from happening?
Yeah.
Because, there could be 50 people that are brainwashed.
Yeah. This one sort of makes eyes at that concept, doesn't it? By having the assistant pathologist
Right.
be
Yeah.
a sort of Jigsaw fangirl.
Yeah.
And she's like a member of Jigsaw fan forums and things like that.
Right.
Which exist on the dark web. Or
Yeah,
whatever.
rather than the regular
Like,
internet.
That's
Yeah.
all. That's all interesting stuff that they just gloss over
Yeah.
in favor of having it as a man that annoyed Jigsaw,
Yeah.
like it personally affected Jigsaw's life.
The thing about that as well, that's pretty shit, isn't it? At the end, when he's like, he puts them all in a trap where they might well die if they don't, show penance, as he puts it,
Yeah.
or show contrition.
Yeah.
Then, Tobin Bell looks genuinely like it's the worst thing he's ever seen when that guy gets hurt,
Yeah.
when Logan gets hurt, and he's like nursing his wounds, and the voiceover is like, oh, he didn't want to see what did he say?
Someone killed for
Yeah,
one mistake.
Exactly. But every fucking trap for the last 10 years has been someone being killed over one mistake. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. And also it's like what did you think was going to happen? Like, what did he think was going to happen?
Yeah.
Like,
he's like force feeding people into like a series of cross-sectional blade, like disc saws.
Circular saw blades. Yeah.
And then he's like, "Oh my god, how did this happen?"
I can't believe this happened. Who could have seen this coming? It's absolutely incredible.
And what I don't get is why all these people, when they get mutilated or like their arms get chopped off or their legs get chopped off or they get their families killed, they get blinded, they go, you know what? The guy who did this to me is actually right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Amanda's a fucking amazing example of that because this is spoilers for I don't care anymore. Right?
One of them.
Yeah. She's brainwashed into it. And I think we're now supposed to swallow the fact that you either go if you survive a saw trap, you come around to his way of
You're
thinking.
rehabilitated, yeah.
Yeah.
In one of the Saw films, he says, my method works 100% of the time. Like, if people survive my methods, they are 100% rehabilitated.
That's clearly not true in Amanda, though, because she has PTSD.
They have support groups for his victims. One of the focal scenes in Saw 7 is a support group for people who have previously been in saw traps.
Yeah.
Oh, dear.
I mean, he is mad.
Yeah. The problem with this film is that the more, I mean, it goes without saying almost, but the more you think about it, the more it falls to pieces in ways that suggest that they wrote the plot to be cool, and didn't worry about the details at all.
Right, okay.
So, obviously Logan's behind it all, right?
Yep.
And Edgar Munson's body turns up in Jigsaw's grave.
Yeah.
When did that happen? When did he killed Edgar Munson?
Yeah.
Dug up Jigsaw's grave?
Yeah.
On his own?
Yeah.
Exhumed John Kramer's body, put it all back, and made sure it didn't look like the grave had freshly been dug up.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, that's fine.
Would the hospital not notice that loads of presumably really expensive laser cutting equipment was missing?
Maybe bought it
Bought it privately, fine.
Yeah.
I'll give you that one. Right, so let's say a core belief, right?
Yeah.
Of yours.
Yeah.
Do you have any what is something that you believed at your core 10 years ago, and do you still have it strongly enough to act on that in a sort of moral compass sense? But
10 years ago I was 16?
Yeah. Right.
Yeah.
But Logan has just been laying dormant for 10 years for no reason, and now has decided that now's the time to do it.
Even though maybe he knew all that time that there's a high churn rate of Jigsaw apprentices.
Right.
And he was just
waiting.
Now that they're all dead, he has to. But it's been 10 years since Hoffman packed up.
Yeah. Is Eleanor independently wealthy? Or how can she afford to buy all that incredibly expensive saw relic stuff?
Yeah. And also rent a huge warehouse to keep it in.
Yeah. How does one buy a jigsaw trap? I know
On
it's
the dark web, mate.
Yeah, but where do they get them?
Bitcoin.
Because she's got the actual reverse bear trap in her warehouse.
Yeah, that's
right.
That's right.
And the last time we saw that was, of course, on the body of Jill Kramer in a police station where everyone had been massacred.
And then the place got blown up.
Yeah. Did no one... So we find out that the barn where the trap takes place belonged to the family of Jill Kramer. Yeah. No one checked that in the years that she was being interrogated and suspected of being involved in
It's amazing that they... the police didn't find that out. The pathologist found that out.
Yeah.
And
because of some pig shit disease.
But however, the police did know that the assistant pathologist had a job offer a year before.
Yeah.
That's on her police record, I guess.
Yeah. Yeah. But apart from that, I think the traps were all pretty good, weren't they?
The traps were better because they weren't so
meaningless. The other ones were most of the ones from like Saws 4 to 7 are just like devoid of any meaning whatsoever.
Yeah, and also they were very focused on like like not necessarily focused on it, but they led to like a loss of dignity for the character.
Yeah.
And I think and obviously it's not exactly dignified to be fed through a spiralator,
Yeah.
but you take my point that there's some difference in the tone of Saw 5, 6, 7's traps, which sort of revels in like the humiliation of the character.
Yeah.
Whereas this is more like how bad would it be to be in a situation? You can't put yourself in this situation when there's someone who's like, when you don't want to.
Yeah.
Because
like the film's by no means like soft. It's still a nasty film in terms of its like injuries and things like that.
Yeah.
But it doesn't dwell on the injury detail in the same way that the previous films do.
Or the distress. I mean, obviously they're distressed and they
Yeah.
scream and they panic.
Yeah.
But there's a certain like a leering, creepy element that I can't really put my finger on it, but there's the way it's shot in the other ones where it's just like,
Yeah.
it just holds a bit too long on an emotional reaction, and you get
Yeah.
like, it just takes what could be considered fun out of it.
Yeah, and I think the tone of this is shifted towards more like it knows that it's a bit campy
Yeah.
and ridiculous and far-fetched. And like you mentioned the spiralizer death
Yeah.
in Jigsaw, and that's I think a good example because you see enough to get like what has happened to him and
Yeah.
like the extent of his injuries, but the focus is more on Ryan's reaction to seeing the body.
Yeah.
And even when the body like drops into the like later on,
The booby trap.
yeah, and it like scares some detectives. Even then, it's not like gratuitously like held on a like nasty
Yeah.
injury detail shot.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
the injury detail that is there, for example, there's a shot of Ryan's severed leg, like a almost like a cross section of his leg.
Yeah.
That's more like, I don't know, for some reason it felt realer and it felt like more impactful in a way that was supposed to give a sense of emotional resonance, because it's like, it's when I think Anna is like tourniqueting his leg
Yeah.
so it's not bleeding, and it's like the whole scene is framed around like this thing that a character is doing to another person to help them, as opposed to it just being like, look at how horrible this
Right. Yeah.
wound is.
If you take that back to Saw, whatever it is, where there's a woman who gets like pipes driven through her eyes and mouth,
Yeah,
and it's just like, what is this?
yeah. It's upsetting and like
Yeah,
just
distressing.
yeah, leering in a way that this film isn't.
Yeah,
And I think that's
yeah.
to its credit.
It sounds almost weird to say it, but this is like a more respectful of its victims sort of film.
Yeah. And also I have to say that the injury detail that is there, some of it is, I think, maybe my favorite sort of gory detail of the whole franchise, and that's at the end when Detective Halloran has his head like
it sort of folds open like a Venus flytrap.
right. It's like a flower, isn't it?
Yeah,
And it's like grotesque and ridiculous and disgusting.
impossible.
Yeah, but it is quite amusing
Yeah,
and
yeah.
like just a interesting image. And same goes for the there's a character who has like had his head bisected by a saw blade
Yeah,
in like an unusual angle, and there's something like gnarly and like Victorian freak showy
Yeah.
about like,
the 15-year-old you is probably really enjoying that. Do you know what I mean?
well, yeah, or like it's like I'm sort of fascinated by it in like a film production sense,
Yeah, that's
like in a
what- yeah.
design sense,
Yeah.
whereas I wasn't when it's just a woman having pipes driven into her eyes,
Yeah.
like because what, like because she worked as a PR for a man who wrote a book.
Oh man, I would say that all of the twists in this, and there are lots,
Yeah,
are pretty well telegraphed to the point where we were in the cinema watching it, and I think every single one of us leant over to the other one and said,
Yeah.
like one word, and you go, yeah,
Yep.
yeah. So, for example, I leant over and said, "The gun's going to backfire." You went, yep.
yeah. I didn't actually see that coming necessarily. Obviously, you know that something's up with
Right,
the whole
yeah.
situation, The problem with that whole like this is the key to your survival, you've been thinking about it backwards,
Yeah.
is that it's like that like those riddles where it's like a man wearing a backpack
Yeah.
is found dead and all his bones are broken in the middle of a field. There's
Yeah.
no footprints going towards it.
Yeah.
Like the first time you hear it, you're like, well, it doesn't make any sense. And then they're like, oh, actually,
It's a
parachutist
parachute,
and his parachute didn't open.
Yeah.
It's like, well, it's obvious once you know.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
similarly, like they show the like guy picking up the broken key, and then you have a flashback of John Kramer going like, "It's the key! The key! That's a key!" And you're like, "Oh right, yeah, that's very clever." But at the same time, you're like, "Fuck off!"
Yeah. Like if I said to you, you know, man lies in a field, every bone in his body broken, he's wearing a backpack,
yeah,
no footprints leading up to him.
Mm.
What happened? But if I asked you to solve that riddle while you were, you know,
tied
up
Yeah.
with your leg chopped off, and
Yeah.
there's a good chance you could die in minutes, I think you'd probably struggle to solve that riddle.
yeah,
And that's something that John Kramer's never really understood, is it? That people can't solve these like
No.
really subtle hints to his traps
yeah.
when they're under duress.
So, what would your like ideal Saw film be like?
I mentioned one scenario earlier, which was there's a cult of
Right, the
like,
Manson family type
yeah,
thing.
that would be one way. I guess another really cool thing, and this is what I hoped they would do, I guess,
Mm.
is that
Jigsaw in space.
Jigsaw in space. Yeah. Friday, Jason meets Jigsaw.
Oh my
Yeah.
god, we can only hope.
Yeah, exactly. I think I was hoping with this one that they would kind of completely abandon it, reboot it. Not that I really like the word reboot, but reapproach the whole thing, acknowledge that it happened, and say that, oh, wasn't that the thing the guy years ago did? I never mentioned that. Fuck off, Tobin Bell. He doesn't need to be in it.
Right.
Fuck off, John Kramer. Fuck off everything like that, right?
Yeah.
And say there's a new situation where people are being put through them, and it is more like Seven, and it is more like the traps are thought through in a lot more logical way, where you can put yourself in it and say, if I said to you now, would you rather cut off your arm or your leg, right? You would say, well, that's an impossible decision, right?
Yeah.
But if you put that into a trap, and it was also related to the fact that you previously ran someone over and broke, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like it sounds like I'm describing a Saw film, but there's something that's always missing.
Yeah. I think that it starts to feel that Jigsaw gets more out of building elaborate traps than he does about finding people who like suit a certain form of punishment.
Yeah.
So it's like, it's less about the punishment fits the crime and more about I've got a really cool punishment.
Yeah.
And now I better find someone whose crime is tangentially linked to this.
Exactly. It's pretty crummy in that sense. But another way of making it interesting would be to not bother with the fucking murder mystery who done it, right? Because that's kind of like
it subtracts from the horror experience.
exactly.
Of it,
Yeah,
doesn't it?
yeah. Like because if you're continue thinking, I think they did it, I think they did it, I think they did it, you can't put yourself in it and say, is there a moral thing here? Because
Yeah.
it would take a rewatch, which I'm not going to do,
Yeah.
to think, do I agree with the morality of the thing, or is there something challenging about the morality of the thing? Which
Yeah.
in Saw 1, I think to an extent there is. It's just completely been diluted by years and years of like shit, basically.
Yeah.
But like, so in a sense, the better movie would be following a serial killer and pairing them up against either a victim or a police officer who is, their moral foil, which they've always tried to do, but it's always written by either incompetent people or it's diluted by studio involvement, I imagine.
Yeah.
But like Seven works on that basis of having a chaotic, unexpected, unpredictable killer, and having detectives who are also at odds with each other,
Yeah.
and also at odds with like the world. One's very pessimistic, one's somewhat more optimistic, and it's how do those two polarized views of the world
Yeah.
treat chaos
Right.
essentially, and that is interesting.
Yeah.
That's why Seven works, because the morality plays a strong part.
Yeah.
You don't get that with Danny Glover and the Asian guy from Lost
Yeah.
looking into like walking around rooms and getting more and more. It's, you know what I mean? It's
Yeah, I do. Yeah. Well, I mean, like for me, the best trap in the whole franchise is just being handcuffed to the being chained to the pipe.
yeah,
So, like for me, it almost needs to. When they rebooted it, it would have been good. Like rather than going down the route of like, laser pens or whatever. As much as that was fun and silly,
Yeah.
like it would have been interesting to see, just like, it's just someone shackled to something, or like, really back to absolute basics. Because, like you say, you can put yourself in the position of would you cut your foot off in order to be free?
Yeah.
Whereas you can't put yourself in the position of like you're being fed into a spiralizer. Like it's and like the motorbike that you sold to someone when the brakes didn't work
Yeah.
is powering it. Like it's just too elaborate. There's too many like levels to it
Yeah.
for it to be understandable. Like and get down to that core like central idea. But for me, like something in the vein of Saw 1, right, where it's really pared down and simple, but combined with the element in Saw 2 where there's like a personal connection. So obviously Detective Matthews is looking for his son who has been kidnapped. Like those two things would marry quite well and would give you like an emotional, like a kernel of emotion to center the film around.
Right.
And also, like the traps are always in a sort of superficial, cheap way interesting to watch, right?
Yeah.
Like
yeah.
they there's undeniably, even though they're like often rubbish and like this in a storyline sense they're shit, in a morality sense they're shit. Like it's interesting, like we're saying, from a design point of view, almost,
Yeah,
like,
right, yeah.
because we like horror movies and we like design in horror movies and things like that.
Yes.
What I would like to see is like traps going a bit wrong, and like for example, the Spiralizer Trap, right? That's a like a snare that comes out from the ground and like hooks around his ankle and lifts him up. It's like, what if two people were stood like side by side when that happened?
Yeah, exactly.
Like
What if it goes off when no one stood there?
Right, yeah.
Yeah.
Or like, what if a part of the machine breaks and then it's like out of control and swinging about or something like that?
In this movie, we did have the first attempt at someone breaking the trap,
Right.
and it almost worked. But then, like so it's the one you were describing just now. It was the motorbike, right? And the motorbike's spinning, and the motorbike's back wheel is what spins the spiralizer, which is a giant razor blade which cuts him up. Correct?
Yeah.
And she climbs up onto the top of the trap and sticks a metal pipe in the rear spoke of the motorbike and stops the wheel. And because we've seen movies before, we know that's going to snap in about 5 seconds.
Yeah.
But, which makes it completely inconsequential.
Yeah.
But it would be, like you say, interesting to say, oh, they've broken the trap.
Yeah.
They've outsmarted Jigsaw by working together.
Yeah. Well, that's the other
Yeah.
thing that ties into what I want to see from a future Saw film, which is them actually working as a fucking team. Because every film where they have a group of people being pushed through all these different traps, they're always at odds with one another and fighting and squabbling and everything. There's, I think, 3 main ones: Saw 2, Saw 5.
Yeah. So Saw 2, they're in the house, and it's the Donnie Wahlberg's son one.
Saw 5, it's like real estate drama.
Yeah.
And Jigsaw, where they're all in a
barn,
together.
yeah.
It would be interesting to see them working as a team and like trying to overcome this, like overcome their differences, and and maybe you could have drama based around that. Like one of them is a real criminal who has done something heinous, and like they're trying to survive working as a team with this horrible person.
Do you know what I've it reminds me of, Big Brother, the TV series. Right. If you watch it now, I haven't watched it in years, but the latest series I remember seeing was pretty bad. And it's just a bunch of drunk people in a house shouting at each other.
Yeah.
And they're put in situations where they have to compete and argue, and they get drunk at night, and it's just
it's unpleasant.
Yeah, and it's like, I think you described something similar as putting ants in a jar and shaking it, and that's basically what Big Brother is.
Right.
I think you were talking about The Apprentice, but the point
Right.
still stands.
Yeah.
But watching episode 1 of Big Brother from the first ever series is actually quite interesting, because you get 20 people who've never met, and they sit down at a table and they're given a problem, and then someone says, "Tell you what, I'm going to just lead this discussion and let's see how it goes." And they said, "Would you like to say anything? Would you like to say anything?" And it's just a very calm discussion. And then they get annoyed with each other, but it's about like disagreement rather than shut up, mate. Oh, shut up, whatever, right?
Yeah.
So, and that's probably what would happen in that situation.
Right.
Like, come on, guys, calm down. Like, let's just think about this for a second, right? Let's just think how we're going to get out of this.
Yeah.
Rather than, "Oh, you shut the fuck up, man. Oh, yeah, I'm going to kill you with that gun. I mean, that's
Yeah.
having that level of hysteria is unenjoyable.
Yeah, I agree. Well, I think that's just about all that we have to say about Jigsaw in terms of a sort of review sense.
Yeah.
And that means, of course, it's time to move on to how we would survive. So, Joe, how would you survive Jigsaw?
Jigsaw. It's a hard one, isn't it? It is maybe one of the hardest ones we've done.
Hmm.
If you recognize John Kramer at any point, just say, I want to work with you really badly.
Right. Because he keeps his friends closer than his enemies.
Yeah.
Right.
Because like every single person who's ever shown like contrition
Yeah.
has immediately been hired and
Yeah.
put to work.
Yeah.
So
It's true.
So like when he's like, "Oh, I'm gonna put this gun here, and you're gonna have to decide who gets shot." A little bit of Daniel Plainview there from
Yeah.
Blood. If you go, look, I tell you what, mate. You know,
I like what you're doing here.
yeah. Do you know what? I shouldn't have killed that baby. Wrong of me to do that. Here's what I propose to you. Won't do that again.
Yeah.
And you and me, let's put our heads together, see if we can improve this situation.
Mm.
And he'd go, fuck, you know what? I'm a bit lost myself. So there's
I need someone to help me put
Yeah.
together these elaborate traps.
exactly, yeah. Sense of community stops
Yeah.
people getting depressed, stops people, going off the end.
Mm.
And if there's one thing Jigsaw needs, it's something to think about during the day. When
Yeah.
I think, the devil makes work for idle hands.
Yeah.
And he's certainly been idle, hasn't he?
He does. Yeah, he has. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it doesn't end well historically for his apprentices, does it?
Well, Logan seems to be thriving. He's
That's
he's
true.
lived longer than every single person in the whole series.
That is very true. You've succinctly dispatched with my counterpoint.
and it's his first apprentice.
Yeah, yeah, that's true. Original and best.
Yeah.
Well, that's a good idea. I like it. So just if you can't beat him, join him.
Yeah, basically, yeah.
Right.
And how about you? Any thoughts on how you'd survive against Jigsaw?
Yeah, well, I mean, this is basically a very similar idea, but taken in a different direction. And this is for Eleanor, who's, of course, the assistant forensic pathologist who has an obsession with Jigsaw stuff. Clearly, if she was given the opportunity, she'd seriously consider becoming a Jigsaw apprentice.
Yeah.
Just get a more wholesome hobby.
Yeah.
Like, she works very closely with the police in criminal cases, and she should know better than to collect memorabilia from serial killers on the dark web.
Yeah, but if it was purely as a, from a museum curator perspective, like she genuinely is interested with the case.
Yeah.
Because she's a pathologist, it's not impossible.
Yeah.
And she loves the design. You said yourself you appreciate the design of a good trap.
Yeah, I wouldn't rent a warehouse
To keep them in. Let's make some apologies for her now.
Yeah.
Let's say the warehouse is in her family. It's derelict. She can't put business in there.
Yeah, well, assuming that it is all innocently motivated, as it appears to be by the end of the film, the second it appears that Jigsaw is involved in these new crimes, she should say, listen, this is a secret that I've been harboring, but I've been fascinated in a sort of morbid sense in Jigsaw's work.
Yeah.
And I've over the years collected a load of relics from his crimes.
Yeah.
I know that's really weird, possibly illegal, but I just want to let you all know that, because that way I can recuse myself from the investigation. Like, you can take my DNA, you can come and see all the traps, some of which I've built, which admittedly is a unfortunate coincidence. But you can come and have a look at them, and in that sense, I'm working with you. Then I'm happy to just go and sit in a police station until
It all blows over.
yeah. Or until I'm obviously excluded from being responsible for the crimes.
Yeah. The problem with that theory, though, is even if she'd done that, a body did show up in her warehouse.
That is true, but do you think she's going to get tried for that murder? Like, at the end of this film, do you think she's under investigation?
No, but
Yeah, well, there you go. I don't think it's going to come back on her. Like, even though
she didn't die anyway.
No, she didn't. But she yeah. I mean, she could have avoided a lot of trauma.
Yeah.
And I try to think of the reason that she doesn't do this. This whole why she has to keep up this mystery.
Yeah.
This air of mystery. And do you know the reason that I came to?
Go on.
It's because it's sexy.
Yeah, no, that's exactly it. Yeah.
Right. It's because she's like a emo.
Yeah.
It's like
Yeah.
it's because she's like a naughties grunge chick,
Yeah.
and she's got the tattoos and the dyed red hair,
Yeah.
and she works in in pathology, and she's around dead bodies, and she likes murders, and she probably listens to podcasts about murders and all that sort of stuff.
Yeah. She's what's that band? Panorama. Pantera? No.
Paramore.
Paramore. Yeah.
Right.
Panorama.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. She's a big fan of BBC's Panorama, investigative journalism. Who isn't a fan of that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
She's very Hayley Williams. Is my point.
Right. Yeah, that's pretty denigrating to Hayley Williams. I'm not sure Hayley Williams from Paramore collects like relics from
But
serial
no, I mean
killers.
she's an emo. You made the point. She's
Fine.
an emo.
Yeah, no, well, you mean she's got red hair,
She has red
and
hair,
tattoos.
a grungy sex appeal.
Fine.
That okay with you?
Yeah, it's fine.
Yeah.
But all I'm saying is that shouldn't stand in the way of her like helping the police with their inquiries.
Some people like the chase, don't they?
What?
Do you know what I mean? There's some people like having a secret.
Let's just move on.
Right.
Let's just move on. What's your next idea?
Detective Hanrahan.
Halloran, yeah.
Yeah. If I'm a policeman
Mhm.
and I think I'm onto a hot lead,
Yeah.
what do I do?
I tell you what you don't do.
Yeah.
Phone it in.
Ah,
Definitely do not phone it in.
why?
Because you're Detective Halloran. You want to crack the case yourself.
Right. So let's say you're not a Detective Hanrahan. Let's say you're
Detective Sherville, yeah.
Detective Sherwood on the case.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you see the two suspects going to a location.
Yeah.
What do you do?
10-4, big buddy. I'm going into this house. I've tracked two suspects. I want to take them to custody.
Yeah.
I have visual on them entering a building which is a known property of the Kramer family.
Yeah.
I think they might be involved. Please respond. Responder says, all right, sending backup.
Yeah. Yes, thank you very much. I will wait for backup.
Yeah. Right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Has any policeman ever in history been advised in their training to enter a dark warehouse alone when they know they're outnumbered?
I mean, police are, if they believe a life to be in imminent danger, then they are
Obliged.
to go.
Whose life was in imminent danger there?
Well, the way the film is set up, it's implied that there are two more potential victims, but the last two turn out to be Logan and Halloran. So he may have believed that
There were two people in there who he could save.
but also Halloran is shown throughout the film to not be the most caring when it comes to the sanctity of life or the rule of law.
No.
So, yeah. Basically, your point is that he should have waited for backup and called it in, right?
Yeah.
And that's correct. Like, there's no arguing with that.
And he'd
Like,
still be alive.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They'd have blown the case wide open.
Yeah. And as you say, Detective Halloran would have been alive.
Yeah.
I'm going to read a list of names now.
Okay.
David Tapp, Stephen Singh, Alison Kerry, approximately 5 or 6 SWAT officers who were electrocuted, Eric Matthews, Daniel Rigg, a crime scene photographer, Lindsay Perez, Peter Strahm, Dan Erickson, a voice analyst, a coroner, a coroner's assistant, an unnamed police officer, Rogers, Palmer, Matt Gibson, and 2 unnamed FBI agents.
Yeah.
That's the sum total of... Oh, and Detective Halloran, obviously.
Yeah.
That's the sum total of the law enforcement people who have died in the Saw franchise as a direct result of Jigsaw or his apprentices.
Yeah.
So here's my suggestion.
Are you forgetting Strahm? Was he in there?
Peter Strahm was in there, yeah.
Yeah, was Wahlberg? Donnie Wahlberg?
Yeah. What, you mean Eric Matthews?
Oh, right, yeah.
His name in the film isn't Donnie Wahlberg.
What do you mean?
Right. My point
Yeah.
that I'm making in a very heavy-handed way
That's very good.
is why on earth would you work on a suspected Jigsaw case? Because the police, specifically the police fatality rate, is absolutely astronomical.
Yeah.
Like, that's at least 24 people. Like, at least.
Yeah. All police.
Basically, if you're let's say you're put on a Jigsaw case, just go, I quit. You can't make me do it. There's absolutely no way I'm going to get involved in this. See you later.
Yeah.
And they're like, oh, but you're supposed to be the great good. Like, honestly, it's not worthwhile. The number of people we've just fed into like the machine that just mulches law enforcement operatives, right? That is the Jigsaw killer cases. It's just not worthwhile. I'm going to quit. And my family and my children are going to thank me for it.
Do you not think there's a certain element of like wherever this is set, whichever fictional city this is set in? It's never like Chicago
No,
or anything, is it?
no.
It's just like
Jigsawville.
Fucktown, USA, or
Right.
whatever.
Yeah.
It seems that the police force attracts a certain type of person who is
I'll tell you who they attract.
um,
Dead people.
they attract
David Tapp, Stephen Singh, Alison Kerry, approximately 5 or 6 SWAT officers,
yeah.
Eric Matthews, Daniel Rigg, a crime scene photographer, Lindsay Perez, Peter Strom, Dan Erickson, a voice analyst, a coroner's assistant, an unnamed police officer, Rogers Palmer, Matt Gibson, and 2 unnamed detectives.
But can you are any of those people not a cliche movie detective? That I have to say, is anyone in that
Crime
list?
scene photographer. She was all right, wasn't she?
Which one was she?
In Saw 4, they're in a school classroom
Yeah.
where
She gets shot in the head with a bolt.
yeah.
Wrong place, wrong time, mate. If you ask me, could have been aimed for Hoffman.
David Tapp, Stephen Singh. I will list their names. We will remember them.
Is Tap Glover?
Yeah.
Fucking shit, wasn't he? Really?
Yeah, he was bad. It's particularly bad.
Oh,
That's not including Hoffman as well, who technically was a police officer.
Yeah.
And he is dead,
yeah. And I'm
as far as we know.
based on the fact that every apprentice has died so far,
Mm.
I haven't got high hopes for Logan either.
No. Well, there's only one way to find that out, and that is next year when we watch Jigsaw 2.
Yeah.
Great.
They should get us in to direct it. It'll be very, like,
Funny, wouldn't it?
yeah, it'll be a deep character
Well,
study.
we're into video now, mate, aren't we? So it's bread and butter for us.
Yeah. If
And
you've liked what you heard here, check out that video because
Yeah.
you'll probably get a bit more context on why we're so angry.
Yeah. HowToSurviveShow.com.
Yeah.
And if you want to get in touch, email address is howtosurviveshow@gmail.com. Twitter is @howtosurvivepod. And Facebook is facebook.com/howtosurvivepod.
Yeah. So last week, Chris, we did Creep, which was a 2014 found footage movie about a
Yeah.
creep. That was quite good fun.
Mhm.
Now, since then, we've watched 8 Saw movies.
Mm-hmm.
I don't, because of this and because of the prep that went into it and the production, I don't recall the last time I watched a movie for pleasure.
Right.
And like I haven't gone to see Blade Runner yet because I haven't had time because of all this like Saw watching.
Yeah.
And tell me please next week that there's a good movie that I'm going to enjoy.
Well, next week's film is a suggestion from our listener, Matt Peck.
Matt Peck. Now he sounds like a man who's got good taste.
Yeah, well, Matt says it's actually a film that he's recommended before.
Okay.
I don't know if you remember that.
Was it Reservoir Dogs?
He
That's quite a good film.
tweeted in saying, I still think you guys should review The Boy, brackets, spoiler, it's shit.
Wow.
Would like to hear both of your opinions on it, though. Great.
Well, I think you probably know what we're going to say, Matt.
Well, there's only one way to find out. That's waiting for next week's episode. If you'd like to recommend a film, we've been doing a few like listener recommendations. They're always good fun.
Yeah. Creep last week was a listening recommendation.
It was, yeah. And
Yeah.
Matt, make sure you tweet us with how you would survive.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Do we we're really doing that?
Yeah. Yeah, mate. It's on Netflix,
Yeah.
I think, if anyone wants to watch it along with us.
I
Be a riot.
haven't been consulted on this.
Next
Oh.
week, How to Survive the Boy. So thank you very much for listening. And don't forget that the How to Survive Saw Marathon video is still available. You can still find it.
Yeah.
HowToSurviveShow.com.
Yes. If you've got thoughts on how you'd survive in Saw, Saw 2, Saw 3, Saw 4, Saw 5, Saw 6, or Saw 7, aka Saw 3D, aka Saw the Final Chapter, or Jigsaw, or The Boy, or any of the movies we've covered on the podcast, feel free to get in touch and we will definitely read out your input. You know, we do could go back and cover earlier movies in our remit.
Yeah.
When people email in with their thoughts on how they'd survive in them. Yeah, the nature of our podcast is that the episodes remain evergreen, and you can go back anytime and listen to all of them.
Of course, yeah.
And I'm assuming
Please
that's
do.
what most people do. Is just
Yeah.
when they get to the end, they go back to the beginning.
Yeah, constant rotation. Why
Yeah.
not?
That's what Molly Poots has done. Molly
Yeah.
Poots has emailed in.
Hello, Molly.
Good evening. In Poltergeist, my best survival idea is simply be Dana. She gets it real easy in that movie.
Yeah, she's basically out of the house on like dates and things.
Yeah.
Whenever anything's going on.
Yeah, well, she didn't need to be in the film, really.
No.
So, yeah, you can benefit from lax story writing if you are Dana in that
Yeah.
sense.
Yeah, a tertiary character.
Yeah. Molly goes on. As for Gerald's Game, which we did a couple of weeks ago now, it's on Netflix. It's a very good film. I think it would have been perhaps a bit easier to maybe try and break her thumb or cut an appendage off rather than slit her wrist and deglove her whole hand. That seemed a bit extra. The problem with that, I think, is Molly, is that I think she does try and just get a little bit of blood out and botches it. That was always my interpretation.
Right. Well, I think the issue with like breaking a thumb is that how are you going to get leverage against anything in order to break it?
Yeah.
Like you can't just like twist your wrist and like thumb, like you're playing a bass guitar against the wood of the bed frame or whatever. I think that'd be pretty difficult. But yeah, I think the way in which she does end up escaping, the way in which she does end up trying to escape is a bloody mess.
It is absolutely grotesque.
She makes a bloody mess of it.
Yeah. Molly goes on, finishes up. I love the podcast. But even though Friday the 13th is finished, please keep the spirit of Roy Burns alive.
We will do, always. Roy Burns forever in our hearts.
Yeah. She says Roy Burns is the ultimate Tom Cruise dad. Putting together a bit of a glossary of the
Glossary
best
of terms.
Yeah. Stuart Baxter's emailed in as well.
Hello, Stuart.
Hi all. Noticed.
Hi all.
Hi all. All of you.
Yeah.
There's only two of us. Maybe he thinks we've got a huge production staff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, we do.
Yeah,
very
yeah,
much
yeah.
so.
Yeah. Hi all. Noticed that you've covered Bone Tomahawk. So I was going to suggest the director's follow-up, Brawl on Cell Block 99.
Mate, we're too busy doing the boy.
It's brutal and savage. Not sure if this will be a horror, as IMDb describes it as a crime drama. But it has horrific scenes that are on par with Bone Tomahawk. Vince Vaughn proved his acting chops in True Detective, but he ups his game here. He's been an actor for like 30 years.
Yeah.
That like True Detective wasn't like his first movie.
No.
Unless you're suggesting that comedy actors aren't good.
I think he just meant it was his best performance.
It wasn't, though, was it? It was okay. Did you watch it?
No, I didn't see the second series.
Do you know why? Vince Vaughn was very bad at acting. Stuart finishes up. P.S. Don't get put off by the title and poster, as they are both shit. And I would have avoided it if it wasn't for the director's previous work. Keep doing what you're doing, guys. Loving it, Stu. What I don't get though is Stu says, not sure if this will be a horror.
Not sure if people would describe it as a horror, but maybe you should still cover it.
I can't tell whether Stuart's seen it or not. That's my point.
I think, well, he says that Vince Vaughn's really good in it.
Yeah, but he also says he read it on IMDb.
Great. Well,
anyway, either way, Stuart, it's a good input. I mean,
Yeah.
I think I do want to watch it.
yeah. Maybe we'll stick it on the list. Maybe it'll be after The Boy.
Oh, really? We're doing The Boy?
We're doing The Boy next week. The Boy. Look forward to it.
it. We've got Blade Runner. We've got...
No, can't do that, mate.
Brawl on Cell Block 99.
Next week, The Boy. The absolute boy.
Who directed The Boy? Exactly. You don't even know.
Next week is The Boy. Thanks very much for listening. And of course, that means we're finished with the Saw franchise. And there's no other way, there's no other phrase to end the podcast on other than
I speak for the dead.
we're here before the box office takings have come out, Joe. But I can only assume it's smashed all records.
Yeah.
Not just for horror films, but for cinema in general.
Yeah,
Avatar is crumbling in the wake of Jigsaw, the reinvention of the Saw franchise.
Yeah. A big movie this year so far was Dunkirk. And I imagine this has probably sunk all of Dunkirk. So, do you think Jigsaw would have done well at Dunkirk? Probably not. Bad.
Great stuff.
Yeah.
Keep that going.
Hold on. I've used up all my best material for the next year. So let's stop recording now.